Okay.
And we're live. Hi, everyone.
First time we've used this technology, so there may be a little hiccup or so, but please keep the microphones muted. Please type your questions into the chat box, and then we'll be able to answer those later on. So let's get started, Paul.
Okay.
So thank everybody for joining the webinar. I hope you're staying well and safe in these very challenging times. Introduce myself, Simon Robinson. I'm the president and founder of Hokkaido Tracks, and Paul Bukovich,
Hi, everyone.
Director of Real Estate.
Good to see you guys online, and looking forward to having a chat with you guys over the next hour.
So just a bit of history. So I've been here since, thanks, Paul.
Sorry.
I've been living here since 2002. Paul and I have been working together for 14 years now, right? And so,
yeah.
and I don't know if this is good or bad, but this is the third time I've been through these sort of crazy incidences here in Japan, and I want to share that experience with you today. It's a very dynamic situation. We have to be on our toes, there's no doubt about it. We expect the presentation to take about 1 hour, and that we'll take the questions through the message board, what we said beforehand. And then after that, we're also really happy to set up one-on-one meetings with people who like to go into specific detail. So let's get started.
Okay, great.
So here we are, planet lockdown. I mean, this is completely new territory to all of us. It's totally resetting the playing field. And we have to acknowledge it's tough. You know, it's tough out there. It's tough to know what to do. But one thing for sure that we know about is that we need to be flexible. And, you know, if I've got to ask myself a very important question, is Hokkaido Tracks going to carry on business the same way that it has done in the past? And the answer is no, it's not. We're going to have to reinvent the business. And so it's going to come about safety first. And if I say reinvent the business, I want to go back into 2008, 2011. Our approach was to cut the business to the bone and then just to try and hang it out.
Right.
This time, and you're with me, Paul, it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
And it actually, we missed out on a lot of the opportunities that came around because of the fact we didn't have the resources to do it. So this time, we're not going to follow the rest of the market. We're actually going to do what we believe is correct, and that is in actual fact to develop our product, remain extremely flexible, because I do see that there is opportunities in these challenging times. We've got to get to them, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, we do have the Olympics next year in 2021, and thank goodness that was moved. And we do have the Beijing Olympics in 2022. And we also still have development going on in the region. So it's not as though everything's stopped.
Sure.
It's just changed.
Sure.
Next slide, please.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, this slide to me tells you everything, or not tells you everything, it tells you what's going on. This is a shift in spending. So unfortunately, our area sits down in the red. You know, airlines, cruises, lodging, movies, and we're down in that area at the moment. That is really absolutely the money they've been spending in these areas is completely different. And you can see that the money has been shifting over to things like general merchandise, what you can do online in your own home,
supermarkets.
But really interestingly, if you go back to the Great Depression, right? The area that actually prospered during that time was cafes and movie theatres. Well, I don't think that's going to be the case this time around.
Yeah, correct.
But we do need to realise that this will change again, and that we have to be flexible and ready for that change.
Yeah.
So what's been happening in Japan? Next slide, okay. So obviously from a national level, the Olympics have been postponed. We've had 70 plus countries have been banned to enter in Japan, which is not surprising because it's the same everywhere else in the world. So international tourism doesn't exist. We are hoping that we will see domestic tourism, and we're actually planning on that this year as well. And again, a state of emergency has been declared down south, so Tokyo. Okay, we're back again. Sorry about that. So I'll just recap again. New technology. This is one of the things that we have to learn about. This is our future. So back, the Olympics have been postponed. Thank God. Okay, so that actually gives us a great level of hope for actually putting together a business plan for next year. International tourism at the moment doesn't exist, of course, as it doesn't exist anywhere. I think the domestic market is still actually going to be here over summer, I believe. Okay. We're in a state of emergency again in the southern states, which is, it is what it is, but Japan takes a different approach. It doesn't actually, it's not a full lockdown. There's a lot of it's relying on the residents being a lot more obedient and compliant, and the natural
following the rules.
Following the rules, and actually also to the natural courtesy of how wearing a face mask is commonplace. Shaking hands is not commonplace. So there's lots of things along those lines. Hokkaido, we're very, very fortunate. We have a very proactive young governor, and he put in place his own state of emergency, not from the national government, the February 28th, and we have actually were at that time the lead concern area within the whole of Japan. Those numbers have now dropped. We're down 8, 9, 10, something like that. I mean, it's not good news because it means the other areas are going up, but it's good news for us. And in actual fact, our cases of corona have actually been quite well contained. But he's actually put Sapporo into a mini state of emergency again, just Sapporo, because in April is the time when it's a big transfer of employment with salarymen and women. Yeah. And so that's shifted people throughout the country, has actually brought back an increase in regards to the number of cases. And again, Mr. Proactive, he hasn't shut down the whole of Hokkaido, he's just shut down Sapporo, but good on him. And then for Niseko, well, for us, the season really finished in March. It's like there was massive amounts of seasonal staff laid off. We had cancellation of bookings, of course, but we also had this really unique thing that was happening where lots and lots of people were extending their stays and saying, we want to stay here. We don't want to go back to Hong Kong. We don't want to go back to Sing. We want to stay here. And so people extended. So certainly though, it was a very different outcome than what we expected. We've only had one case of coronavirus in this region, and that hasn't changed. So, and actually for us, I mean, we're socially distancing, although I'm sitting a bit close to Paul, but the place is pretty quiet, in regards to, there's not a lot of people here. So it's very easy. We get on with our lives. So we can still go ski and, and enjoy ourselves in that way, but it is quite quiet here at the moment.
Okay, so that brings us to the real estate side of things, and obviously I'm getting contacted quite a bit from vendors and buyers, all sorts of people in the real estate things. But as background, just to give you guys an idea of what's happened over this last winter, despite what you may have heard, we've had a really good winter season, sales season. So to give you an idea, my sales team inked just over 50 sales from November to March. So the appetite for resort property, either in Furano or in Niseko at the moment, has been, up until now, has been very strong. And I think we attributed such a really strong winter partially to the opening of the Park Hyatt brand in Hanazono. And then there was the release of the Amman residences in Moiwa. So, and we also have the the Ritz-Carlton under construction now in Higashiyama. So what we're seeing are the bigger brands are really starting to help drive inquiry and interest on a global level from various areas of Asia and both Europe and North America. So yeah, leading up to the state of emergency, we were having a very good sales season. This article here you see in this slide was recently published last weekend, where they're even stating there was even some quite record-breaking sales in projects like Setsu. Apparently has sold one of their penthouses at 800 million yen for one of their top level units. Even they go on to state something around a Cambodian buyer who spent over $10 million in the market in March. So the market's still continuing to move on. despite the coronavirus, we're still seeing lots of inquiry coming into the market, and we expect that will continue over the next little bit. Okay.
I mean, from my position, Paul, the big difference is that it's again, if I take it back to the financial crisis, okay, the level of inquiry that has come out, so it's much more quickly than last time, and
absolutely,
and so that
it hasn't stopped.
No.
I mean, the inquiry has not stopped. Okay,
and the bargain hunters are actually into the market much more quickly than the previous experience.
Sure,
I do put a lot of that down to exchange rate. I mean, so that people go, oh my goodness, and that's the big difference this time round, and I think it's a very important difference, is that the USD Japanese yen rate is actually stayed the same as what it was.
Correct.
Yep.
And we'll go into that a little bit later into the presentation, but you're right, absolutely right. Okay, let's go on to the next slide.
So this is a bit of an update on projects. So I'll have to explain the slides because they're a little bit obscure. Basically, what it's saying is that today, at the beginning of the year, by the way, for us, we have 95% of the work what we had for the whole of last year. So we actually have quite a lot of projects on the books, and actually our financial year doesn't start till April, so anything could happen. But anything to do with building approval, there's a multitude of points where a project can proceed or go on hold, okay? And so I expect that there will be projects that get up to building approval or get up to costing, and they might just say, no, at the moment, I'm not quite sure about what we're going to do. We'll go on hold. At the moment, we've had, I think, 10% of the projects just say, look, they haven't stopped. They're actually still in the design phase, and they're going to say, no, we will take this up to building approval, costing, and then we'll make a decision. So I do expect to see a bit more of that. But interestingly too, it's I think that the builders actually might be a little bit more competitive now in regards to, which would be nice. Now, the average size of the project at the bottom is, in actual fact, that plus 10%. That's to talk about that people are actually spending more because our projects are larger. So
this doesn't have, you're not saying that the average cost has gone up. You're just saying the size of the project.
People are spending more because of the size of the project. So, and my goodness, we have a very extensive list of people that, in actual fact, that are still making inquiries. And I think we have 5 live projects in Furano at the moment, and they're they're not stopping.
So Niseko versus Furano, where are you seeing the growth in projects?
Oh, Paul. Paul. The biggest projects are absolutely still here in Niseko, but that for us, because we're much better at innovation than we are competition, in a sense that it's Furano offers it's looking very good, and it's a new market, and so it's viewed as an actual fact that it has a much opportunity for upside. Okay. And I agree with that.
No, absolutely.
I agree with that.
We're seeing that in sales as well. Okay, great. Okay. Should we go on to the next slide?
Sure, just make sure I'm on the right page. Yeah. Okay. Oh, rental comparison. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, I'll do this. You do the next bit. So the biggest thing for us in rental this year, you look down, we have an increase in stock. Okay, so for us, and again, most of our properties are villas, thank goodness, in this market. That's the market I want to be in to a large degree at the moment.
Why do you want to be in the
Because I believe that safety is going to be one of the biggest issues as we come out of this market. People are going, I think that there's an absolute growth in the villa rental market, and I think that there's going to be challenges in the hotel market. That's what I think. Okay, just because of the fact no matter what happens over the next few months, there's still going to be in the back of people's minds. Even if the doors open up in regards to tourism and travel, they're going to go, I want to feel safe.
Right.
Worry-free travel. That's what we want to be doing.
So the villas are going to be providing
I think so. Doesn't mean that condos and things don't play a major role. I just think this year, this year. So you can see an increase in of stock, and you see our occupancy in 2019 and our occupancy in 2020. So for us, that's pretty good to actually have that amount of stock go in and still maintain those sorts of bookings. I'm pretty happy with that. February, a 45% increase in stock, you can see, and we still had a 67.4% occupancy rate. Not bad, because don't forget, Corona was already starting. Sure. And March, well, March is when we really actually felt the pinch, and that was because of the fact we were actually running at 50% occupancy or 40% occupancy, and we actually released our new products like the All Niseko Pass, which was All Niseko Pass is a program about actually which wants to bring more benefits to the user or the renter, where they can actually, when they rent the property, they actually also get resort credits that they can use throughout the resort on local businesses, okay? Providing what we would call a horizontal hotel platform where people can actually have an authentic experience. So they can go to restaurants, they can go to retail, and it supports the local businesses as well. And we don't ask for commission for that. That's actually, it's a benefit-driven program.
Okay.
And so that actually worked very well for us in February, and was looking great for March.
Yeah.
And then of course we had the shutdowns.
Right.
So rental's been pretty good.
Okay, excellent.
In actual fact, we had a very good year until the end. I'm just looking for
Okay, so yeah, just carrying on to the next slide. So just looking at the, looking at the last, the winter season and the guest residency. So these are the numbers provided by our rental side division. And basically what we're looking at here is, you can see that Asia is now almost 50% of our clients staying.
It probably would have been over 50% except for what actually happened
in March. Yeah, correct. And this actually has been reflected in as well in both real estate and as well in project management as far as the clientele that we're seeing. So even in real estate, we can see that probably over 50% of the more than 50% of that. I'd say it's probably about 75% of the transactions we deal with are coming out of Asian buyers. And then, the sellers may be Japanese or could be Australians. It's a mix of sellers and buyers, but this is very reflective of what we're seeing across the board in all sides of the business. Okay. So
what would we expect for the future, do you think? Where are we going to see the people come up from?
Well, I think as as we know, people aren't going to be traveling as far, in the current environment. So I expect that more and more we will see a growing population coming out of Asia, especially out of China, out of Southeast Asia. Hong Kong, of course, and Singapore will continue to be a main market for us. But we also expect domestically that market will start to grow as well in all sides of the business. Do you agree?
Yeah, look, it's a lot's going to come down to what borders are open first.
Sure.
Okay, and I mean, longer term, and we've been working just as background. This is not something that we've only started work on since the recent events. Okay, we've been working on this idea of what we're presenting to you for this particular thing for well over a year. Okay, and as I said, and the business model that we actually currently work with, that started 2012.
Yeah.
2012. So this is just a kind of, I think that with the Tokyo Olympics, then followed up by the Beijing Olympics, I think that it's very possible that we're going to see, and the interest in snow sports.
Yep.
Okay, I think it's very possible that we are going to see a large increase of tourism numbers, which already are the largest tourism numbers in Japan from China, mainland China, and we have to get ready for that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Right. So one of the things at the moment, so what is the market difference between now and what we saw in the past than the previous crisis? So at the moment, the exchange rates are really held up really well. So the US dollar has done really well to maintain. We're sort of at around that 108, 110 level. Which is really giving buyers the confidence to move forward with product and acquisition still. Whereas, some of the guys, the Australians and the Singaporeans and the Singapore dollar, which have weakened recently, they're maybe not feeling as confident to move forward with purchases at the moment. But they are on the opposite side. There are sellers. So A lot of those guys were sort of seeing this dance between the buyers and the sellers.
I think, Paul, when you've got a strong US dollar, okay, against the Japanese yen, and you've got a weak Australian dollar,
yeah,
there's a deal to be done.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
so I'm getting contacted a lot by Australians who are, vendors that have had their properties for sale, and they're either revising, their asking prices to meet the market. They understand that, there's an opportunity to take the yen back to Australia and get a gain there. So that is the main difference between, at the moment in the market between what we've seen in the past. We're seeing the exchange rate really helping us there.
Well, it's maintaining, yes. I do believe that's actually the fundamental shift.
Sure.
From our historical experience.
Absolutely. And both that's, real estate as well as on the rental side of things,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
if the exchange rates, fluctuate, then we'll see a difference there. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Oops, sorry, wrong
button.
So, so what we've concluded is that, it's better for us to assume that, in the current state of things, that borders will have cycles of opening and shutting, and that the states of emergencies will be cyclical, okay? So at any point now, right, even Hokkaido there may be another state of emergency in Hokkaido. We don't know, we're not there yet, but we need to assume that this is going to be cyclical for the next little bit. So probably over the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to be in this pattern. Secondly, based on what we've seen so far, we believe that Southeast Asia will actually be probably the first to normalize the situation, and will continue to be our priority as far as where we're going to focus to get, because they'll be the first ones to recover from this, and likely will be some of the first to travel back into the area. So we're going to be spending a lot of time working on Southeast Asia and Asia overall.
Can I jump in? But locally, we're going to actually this year put a really big focus into the domestic market as well, because
absolutely. I think from a rental perspective, there'll be a huge push towards the domestic market, okay? Because first we have to start focusing on people that actually can come here, right? And where, and those are that's the domestic market. So we're expecting that at first, the domestic market will be here this summer, and then as borders start to open up, and likely it'll be out of Southeast Asia that we'll then start.
Can I jump in? So, but when we say domestic market, trust we are going to be taking the most precaution possible to make sure that our community and our guests are safe. That's to us is the key. We don't want. I mean, we know that there's an expat market in Tokyo or Osaka that not traditionally they would be going to North America, they would be going to Europe, they'd be going to the UK. They're not going to be doing that.
Sure.
But they still want to think, I've got to go somewhere, and I want to get out of Tokyo, I want to get out of Osaka. And so we think that there's an opportunity in that, but it's got to be done properly. This is not a flippant thing. Sure. This is something that has to be treated very seriously. Likewise, I think with the wealthy Japanese market as well.
Oh, absolutely. So to that end, our standard operation and procedures are going to have to be looked at and actually prepare for, the new normal in this situation.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the next.
So, wrong one again. So, just to reiterate, our future together is about overprotecting your assets to hedge against future uncertainty. My future, HT's future, is on your future. So we're developing product that actually really looks into this. So if I could get to the right list, I'd be happy. Excuse me for a second. Okay. Aha, here we're back to the right one. Sorry about that. So as I spoke about earlier, it was about doing things differently. So for us, and developing a worry-free travel experience for owners and guests, okay? That to us as an actual fact has come down to cleaning services, sanitation, medical services, low-touch provision of service so that people can actually, to a large degree, they can do it themselves, particularly in the next few months. Continuing broadening our market outlooks. So what markets are we going to look into? How are we going to do that? And we have to remember that not all the markets are ski markets. So we actually have to make sure that we're actually thinking far more than just the winter months.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I think that's critical for the next little bit, is that we spend a lot of time focusing on the other side of Hokkaido, right, which is the green season.
Yeah, and actually the people who come here, who in actual fact are coming here for family purposes, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then I spoke about this again too, benefit travel experiences such as the All Niseko Pass. Now these are not price driven.
Mm.
I mean, these are not price driven. These are experience driven. This is about providing a really top end safe environment that is memorable.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, we went into the discounting thing last time round, and it's honestly, it's just a slow spiral to the bottom.
Right.
And we don't want to do that. It actually affects everything from real estate pricing to the ability to deliver service. You know, so safety first, absolutely. You know, for the foreseeable future. And we talk about worry-free travel, and there's so many components in that. It's not just one thing. It's just not a statement. There's 1,000 moving parts behind that, which we actually are investing heavily into. Tech communications, webinars, and we need to know. Traditionally, we would be traveling at minimum 1 weekend a month to our clients, okay, whether it's in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, you know, Manila. We're not going to be able to do that. Shanghai, you know, we're not going to be able to do that. So we're going to start using a lot higher level of technology, and you're going to see that we're actually bringing out a whole range of new websites. Again, this hasn't started in the last few weeks. This has actually started many months ago. And they're going to be very content driven, and so that there'll be a lot more information in there. And then importantly, which we'll go on to the next slide, is a fully integrated service across the board, because when you engage with HT, you engage with the circle of love.
We love this one.
Actually, this is an in-house conversation that we have all the time with the senior staff, and that is in actual fact trying to make sure that each division isn't working in its own capsule, that in actual fact that each division actually has supports and integrates with each other division. So within our company, and this is actually the strength in the organisation, is that we have, you can actually say, it's not, I used to say three businesses in one, but in actual fact we have 4 businesses in one. So we've got real estate, which Paul runs, projects, which Dylan runs, asset management, which Kieran runs, and vacation rentals is a new area that we're growing currently, that's working with Hideo and Morris and Jonathan to build this. And that's for us is a really important part of what we're doing. So how do you see the future of real estate, Paul?
Very bright. I mean, I think what you'll find is that Hokkaido and Japan overall, these markets are quite resilient. Okay, so you know we're expecting that it's going to be a little bit slower over the short term, but the market fundamentals haven't changed. Right, it's a beautiful location. It's in the right spot in Asia. The skiing's fantastic. You know, the food, the air, the quality, all this stuff.
Even without Paul Snow year, I've got to tell you, from a guest perspective, they didn't care. They probably actually even enjoyed it more.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, so the short term, there's going to be, it's going to be a little bit, we're gonna have to, dive around and find out new ways to do things. But the medium to long term, I think it's a winner, and still an absolute winner. So like any investment, you got to look at the long term. Okay, so look for opportunities. And again, if anybody on this webinar, if you want to get in touch with me directly or with Simon or both of us to talk more specifically about your own needs in the real estate market, whether you're a developer or you're a vendor or you're a buyer, by all means, feel free to get in touch with us. Okay, directly, one-on-one. What do you think? What do you see, Simon, as from a project side?
Project side. I mean, if I speak of it, it's like marketing talk. I mean, we're no longer in a blue ocean; we're in a red ocean. And in actual fact, it's like, so when we first came here, you could really just get down and do anything because there were so many opportunities. Today, I actually see that we have to exercise with a far higher level of professionalism, a far higher level of systemization and follow-up and client service. And as I said beforehand, we actually have to offer a full integrated service so that when we're talking to people with projects and development, they're not just talking to the project team,
right?
They're talking to the whole team.
Sure.
But the real area of innovation is in asset management and in vacation rentals. And we are turning this town on its ear because the system that is in here today, Matt Denning and I bought in nearly 20 years ago, and it was for a model that was based on renting beachside apartments in Noosa Heads, where it was absolutely zero service, right? And it's right, and people have just got into it hasn't matured. And so we're about to release a new asset management and vacation rental package that, that to the marketplace that I believe greatly benefits the owners.
Okay.
And actually allows the operators to do a better job.
Right.
But no one's, it's the time to do it. So that really is the really exciting news that's going on, and you'll be hearing a lot more about this over the coming months.
Okay, great. Let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, so you know, talking about communication. So I guess going forward, you know, if you're not already following us on Facebook or Instagram, please, you know, like us on those social media networks. I think you'll notice probably over the next little bit we'll be doing a lot of consumer updates there, and look out for us on, you know, things like LinkedIn. We're in planning right now for brand new websites for both real estate and the property management or asset management division, as well as the corporate Hokkaido Tracks division. So we're expecting those to be launched in May. So that's really exciting. And again, email, always feel free to, you know, get in touch with us via email. So I think the webinar, I think it's safe to say going forward as well, webinar is going to become, you know, part of our new normal. And you can probably expect to hear from, you know, all the divisions about webinars that will be planned over the next coming months that you can all, you know, join in and partake if you're interested.
Okay, so to find, this is actually the final slide. I mean, it's funny. I mean, we I hope we're not overselling, because the reality is that we understand that it is a super challenging time, but we do actually understand that there is everything's changing. So, you know, you're looking at now, we have to think about a multitude of generations. I mean, it's like, so, I mean, I'm a baby boomer, but I'm also an older father, and my kids are now called Generation C. And that and so when they talk about going outside, they go, "Daddy, do I need to put my mask on?" I go, "Wow." I mean, that is so strange, but that's actually what we're living with now. So for us, you know, I think a lot of the things that we've done in the past will not be appropriate for the future. I think we're going to have to see that we're moving back towards, well, we've got to think about 5 generations, and each of those generations that have different experience, and we somehow or other have to work out how we actually deliver that.
Well, ultimately, behaviors are changing, right? I think in all of these various generations. So, you know, as you can see on the right-hand side of this slide here, you know, what's going to be the new normal is, you know, people are going to be looking for sustainable. They're going to be looking at technology. They're going to be more reliant on their technology, and this do-it-yourself culture is coming in play. And wellness, right? So this whole thing around medical and wellness, which we're seeing a lot of coming into Hokkaido already.
Actually, the Armand's already based.
Exactly, Armand's, you know, doing a medical wellness center.
But I think family travel with groups that people know, don't you think?
Oh yeah, multi-generational travel, right?
Where they know that they're in actual fact they're going. We know the people we're traveling with.
Absolutely, yeah, we can see a lot more.
And you know, things like self-check-in.
Yeah.
You know, so that systems have to be put in place so that people can actually go to their property, but they also know that their property is actually being properly cleaned.
Absolutely.
And that they're going into a safe environment. So, you know, I believe what we have to look at for the future is a focus on wellness.
Yeah. And
so I think that's really from our end, probably where we'll wind up.
Okay, great. Well, let's go to apparently there's been some questions, I think, that have been put through. So let's go to, I'm just opening up the WhatsApp group where we've been getting some questions. Can you give me a second here?
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah, wow, okay. Give me a second here. Okay, so... let's go to the first one from Michael Lee. What do you consider to be the average size project at the moment?
10 million US, probably. It depends on what you're talking about. So if you're talking housing,
okay,
3 to 5.
Okay. So so you're saying the average
Oh,
housing project?
Well, I think in the custom home, 3 to 5.
3 to 5 million US.
In the build, yeah. Okay. Well, it's up to every individual. So, but in the custom market, I think in the smaller condo market, so under 10, okay, and then it goes up in quantum leaps after that.
From Bertram, what is the inventory growth expected over the next few years? How does this match with growth of ski facilities? Okay, so I guess we're talking about number of beds versus what's going on the hill, the ski hill.
Yeah, okay, so
good question.
So it is a good question, and at the end of the day, this resort has always been a development-driven resort. Okay, so development comes first, services come second. And then, we're actually in the service stage, and organisation comes third, and we're only just moving into that. There is the potential, a lot of the developments is going to come from two ends of the bookmark, which is both Arman and in regards to Hanazono. They both have development plans for their ski lifting infrastructure, but I'm sure that their real estate sale has to come first. So it's almost inevitable that you'll end up with a congestion first. We've been muted again.
No, we're just going to.
So it's almost inevitable that we'll go through congestion first, like we experienced this year at Hanazono. Okay, then infrastructure will then follow, unfortunately. But that's been the history of the 2 decades that I've been here.
Right. Okay. But as far as we know, we don't know of any. Well, other than the upgrades, there's upgrades in Hanazono that we know.
There's definitely the master plan for Weiss.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely the master plan for Weiss is in place, and definitely the master plan for Moyo is in place as well. And there's significantly increases now. How those all work with each other in a time frame, it will take time.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next question. So Paul Creetman has asked, won't domestic tourists prefer to go to the Japanese Alps, which is within driving distance of Tokyo? And then also, actually, another question here from Chris Liu. What makes you believe the domestic market will grow?
I think that we've never ever at all focused on the domestic market, and I've only got to look at the domestic market in Furano where they've worked out how to do it. So I think, of course, we've got the aging population, but we're dealing with a sector that for us here in Niseko, we have just never ever really tried to focus on. Although it's actually had an organic growth,
right? Because
people have been very drive-through type in regards. But if we start catering for that properly, I think there's a chance. I also think too that I think there'll be a burning desire for people to move to just to get out of Hokkaido for a while.
Get out of Tokyo?
Yeah, I think particularly this year. Yeah. Okay. So
my view is that the mainland Tokyo market is quite interested in coming up to Hokkaido for a number of reasons, and as they may be interested in going to Hakuba and the Central Alps, but Hokkaido is cool climate summer, right? This is an area, one of the few areas where the mainland people can come up without an air conditioner, right, in the middle of summer and enjoy fresh food. Driving is a big part of Japanese culture and tourism. Hokkaido has endless supply of roads. We've got endless supply of fresh seafood throughout the summertime. And it's very easy for Japanese to basically organize their travel here. So I think versus Honshu, which on the mainland there are still traffic jams even up in the mountains, up on the Central Alps. It gets very busy and can get very crowded. Here we have space, and we have more space than what they have down the mainland. That coupled with fresh food, beautiful scenery. And things like golf that is really super cheap compared to other areas. I think what you're going to see is that Hokkaido will get on with marketing itself to the
50% of the park hire sold to Japanese.
Yeah. So and we've got brands up here now that are going to be driving, right? So okay, so hopefully that helps answer that question.
Summer occupancy from Bertram.
Summer occupancy here is still really poor. Because we haven't actually ever focused on it. Let's see.
Okay.
But if you look at summer occupancy in Furano, it's Furano, which is established in the Japanese market. That's still 80% of their occupancy, correct, Paul?
Sorry,
Furano is 80% of their occupancy. It's
in the summer,
yeah, Japanese
absolutely,
domestic,
absolutely,
80%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we just haven't done it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been so winter focused.
Yeah, correct.
So winter focused.
And that's what's exciting about us going into Furano, where there's such a high peak season in the summer, and they haven't really turned on the winter market yet. So we're expecting places like Furano to have 2 peak seasons, so summer and winter. And in Niseko, this is an opportunity for us to really start focusing on marketing the summer and getting it going.
Jonathan's just given me a note too, and I think it's a very important note. And then it's the worry-free travel is about actually, in fact, villas, villa to a large extent, right? Because to us, it's a hole in the marketplace that we have an opportunity because of the fact that there is concern. I mean, we're all concerned. That's everybody's concerned. Anxiety is a real thing. So we are going to try and provide. Now, we're not going to try and actually be putting people into Sky or putting people into either because of the fact that I think that's actually not where the gap is.
Sure.
So we're going to look for holes in the markets in these areas.
Okay.
But again, Furano's a completely different kettle of fish. It's so established. I think their market is 80% Japanese, and then 15% Chinese currently, and then 5% other Asian at the moment. But it is a different market.
Okay, let's carry on. I've got a question here from Ben. I'm not sure who Ben is, but anyways, how many cases of COVID are there in Niseko, Kuchan area so far? Any fatality? And how are bookings for coming winter compared to same time last year? Okay, so let's answer the question about COVID-19 and any case of COVID-19. As far as we're aware, there's only been 1 case, okay, in Kuchan, Niseko area that's been documented. And the lady that got it, as far as we know, she's fully recovered. And beyond that, and no deaths.
And they did an extensive testing too. I mean,
Yeah.
Japan does treatment more than prevention. If you look at the model of lockdown, that's prevention. And so Japan has its own social, where people take on a social responsibility, right?
Yeah.
But they tested like crazy, every kind of close contact of this particular individual. And it came back, and they just said that she had a lower form of contagious corona, where it was in her nose and not in her throat. And it just appears that, and again, everybody left, So we've been very safe that way, very lucky. But there was 19 new cases in Sapporo yesterday. So it's not as though we're completely free. But deaths, I think total, there's been no deaths at all in our area, of course, but probably across Japan, nearly 80 now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, question here from Christian Lowe. Curious to hear your view on capacity of this. Okay, so same question about ski lift infrastructure, size of the mountain versus pace and size of large new developments in the Niseko area. I think. Sorry, what was that?
Weiss Mountain Master Plan.
Yeah. No. But that's the thing. So Jonathan in the back, you guys are saying about Weiss. That when the demand gets to the point, that's the problem with a development-driven town versus a tourism. So this is a property development-driven town versus a tourism development-driven town. A tourism development town puts the infrastructure in first, but at the end of the day, they still make the money out of the same thing, which is real estate. So with PCPD, it's going to be real estate first. Okay, so.
Okay. Jason Chung, how have the sales inquiries changed over the last 3 to 6 months in response to this situation? Is there a particular property type, price range that has seen more interest? I guess, over the last 3 to 6 months, to answer that question, the inquiries have been, especially this winter, it was really Southeast Asia focused. Like I said, we got a lot of inquiries coming out of the Philippines, starting to see some come out of the Vietnam, but Hong Kong, Singapore were probably still the majority. As far as the sales that we conducted this winter, we had a very good run with chalet sales. and both in secondary and some new chalets that were being built. So we are seeing that there's a shift into the chalet model, and that buyers are jumping out of condominiums. Some of these buyers that we've been talking to were either they do own a condominium in the village or in Hirafa village, let's say, and they're now starting to trend towards getting themselves a chalet if they're in Niseko. And then also, and that's same in Furano as such. Furano, we're seeing a lot of inquiry, obviously, into both land and into condominium. There's not much of a huge housing market, boom at this stage in Furano because it's at such an early stage. And again, it's the market there is it's a mix of Australians, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong. So we're things haven't really changed too much in the last 3 to 6 months, other than we are starting to see a bit of a trend toward the chalet side of things. So that's the answer to that one.
So I've got 2 questions here.
Okay.
So red ocean, blue ocean. So blue ocean, I would classify Furano as a blue ocean, to be honest with you, where in actual fact we're there early and that there's limited competition. Okay, although that will change. Red ocean is when it becomes more of a more mature market. And for us, as a small organisation, for Hokkaido Tracks, it's in contrast to the larger organisations that are coming in. They're very well funded, they're very professional. It changes the playing field. So I just see now that Hirafu is in actual fact it's a much more mature market, and that you actually have to be much more professional, far more professional, to operate successfully within Hirafu than when we started, 10 or longer, 18 years ago. Really, everything was an opportunity, whereas now we actually have to deliver a much higher level of service. Now, I've got another question here. What is the 18,000 bed limit? It's in discussion. It's actually the 18,000 bed limit for Kucham is based on what they can see that they can provide in regards to infrastructure. So it's the infrastructure limit at this point of time. So Kuchan has a certain amount of government funding, and they're saying this is what we can provide within that funding. But that 18,000 beds doesn't include Hanazono, by the way. It's actually a completely separate calculation, but it does include North Hills. Okay, so it would include North Hills, and it would include the land on the other side of the golf course, and then wrapping back around to Kapiyama. Okay. And I don't know what the current beds are here. 12?
Somewhere in the 12, about 12,000. I believe.
Yeah. So, but again, the governments, Kuchan primarily is it's a farming community, okay, and even as it shifts over to being a tourism town, it still actually comes from the farming community mindset, because that's where the boats come from, right? So they're looking at it in regards to limitation versus in regards to what can we do to assist this. But do we need to have some sort of limitations on development? Yes, of course we do. So, but there's no final answer on it yet.
Okay, so this is guys, we're going to have to start wrapping up. This is going to be our last question for this webinar. So the question comes in, it says, will the resort open as normal, as per normal dates? And it's important to let you guys know that the ski resort is still operating. Okay,
so we're still skiing.
Sorry, but so for some of you that
that's
may be in lockdown,
that's where the tan comes from.
The ski resort, as far as we're aware of, will operate until the end of Golden Week. So May 6th is usually the end of the ski resort season here, and then also the golf courses generally open up around that same time. We're not sure about the golf courses opening up just yet, but as far as we know, the ski resort will open as normal for next year.
Absolutely. Hanazono, firsthand, I can tell you, is planning to have a normal operation here. Be aware, Park Hyatt has closed for summer, okay? And that's not just because of tourism. That's actually in fact because it actually makes sense to get all the defects done on the building, right, when the building is empty. They're intending to reopen in November. They're intending to open the resort as per normal. They are making into their calculations 35 to 50% difference in regards to occupancy based on this year. But none of us actually know. But they're not thinking. No one's planning for.
And I should just reiterate, it's when you say the Park Hyatt's closed, that's just the hotel.
That's just the hotel, not the residences.
Not the residences.
The residences are open.
As far as we're aware, the residences are open. Okay. So, okay. Hey, guys, again, we just want to really thank you guys all for joining us today. Really appreciate it. There's, we know in this webinar, we've got everyone from colleagues to owners, to investors, through to, distant colleagues in all over the world joining us and listening. Local business owners. And we really appreciate you guys all. You're all part of our community. And we're looking forward to actually doing a lot more of this stuff in this new environment we find ourselves in. There will be, I believe, there will be a link provided for this webinar if you guys want it. It's been recorded, so if you guys want to share it within your own community as well, feel free to share this conversation along with them. And again, encourage anyone to get in touch with us directly. We're still at work. Some people are working from home. But the office is still open.
We're fully staffed. We haven't let anybody go.
And we do want to talk to you guys. So by all means, feel free to get in touch with us. And again, we sincerely thank you guys very much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you all again in Niseko very soon. Okay.
And we'll make it safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Talk soon.
We'll see you guys again.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.